If you have ever heard something about your life and suddenly started seeing it in everything that people do, then sit with me for a second. I had come to a very serious realization recently, and it has changed the way I relate with certain people around me. And honestly, it wasn't easy to accept, because sometimes growth will demand that you adjust certain relationships you once felt completely safe in. If you are close to me, whether as a neighbor, a relative, a sibling, or my friend, and I noticed that you hold tightly to every predictions and revelations about life without questioning it, I will start to redraw the boundaries between us. Yes, it is that bad. Not because I hate you, not because I feel superior, but because I have learned to protect my peace. Because the truth is, not everything that sounds spiritual is actually truthful. And not every voice speaking into your life is meant to guide you. Some voices sound convincing. Some words sound powerful. But that does not automatically make them right. And when you don't question what you hear, you slowly start to lose control over how you interpret your own life. Sometimes people hear something and unconsciously begin to force reality to match it. They begin to analyze everything through that lens. Every action becomes suspicious. Every word becomes a sign. And most of all, most times, every coincidence becomes a confirmation. It is that bad. And before you know it, reality is no longer reality. It becomes interpretation. And I refuse to become a character over someone else's narrative about my life. I don't want to start walking on eggshells around you, afraid that something I say or do innocently will let out onto. I have heard this before. Or someone told me this before, and this is now confirming it. No, my life is not a script written on assumptions or fear, or maybe someone else's interpretation. I have worked too hard to grow, to understand myself, to now start living based on things I didn't question. And this is how people slowly lose themselves. Not suddenly, but gradually. They don't even understand it's happening, because to them it feels normal. It feels guided. But deep down, they are no longer thinking for themselves. They start handing over their powers little by little until their decisions are no longer theirs. Someone else, somewhere, now decides for them. Through wrong interpretation, through wrong and fake prophecies, through wrong and fake divinations by their so-called diviners or prophets. I refuse that. So I chose to be careful. I chose awareness. And sometimes I chose distance. Yes, I would distance myself from you. That distance is never rejection. No, it is protection. That doesn't mean I stopped caring. That doesn't mean I stopped loving. It simply means I respect myself well enough to guard my space. Because wrong environments can quietly shape stories about you. Stories that you never agreed to. Stories you never knew exist. And before you realize it, people will start relating with that version of you that is not truly who you are. A version built on assumptions. A version built on fear. A version built on interpretation that doesn't even reflect your truth. And that is dangerous. Because once people accept a version of you that isn't real, it becomes harder to be seen as a person that you truly are. And I cannot live like that. I believe in clarity, not confusion. I believe in truth, not fear. And I believe in living a life that is intentional, grounded, and free. Free from pressure. Free from forced meanings. Free from constantly trying to explain yourself. And sometimes protecting your purpose means stepping back, observing more, and speaking less. Not every conversation needs your input. Not every relationship needs full access. And finally, not every environment deserves your energy. Maturity will teach you that you will suddenly realize that peace is more valuable than being understood by everyone. And distance, if you don't know, is sometimes more powerful than constant explanation. So, if I begin to move differently, if I become more reserved, if I start choosing my interactions more carefully, kindly understand that it is not an attack. It is alignment. It is growth. It is me choosing a life where my mind is clear, my space protected, and my path is truly mine. You watching me, take this with you. Guard your circle. Guard your space. And then, most importantly, guard your life. Because not every voice deserves influence over your destiny. If I spoke to you, you already understand.